Daar's hy, welkom by Farmspace. Ons is nog steeds so by WRSA Naboom se inligtingsdag. Ons gaan nou praat met Dr Gary Bauer. En hy gaan ons 'n bietjie vertel van siektes in die wildbedryf, spesifiek snotsiekte en dan die siektes wat jy sal verwag met buffles en dan baie opwindende verwikkelinge wat nou plaasvind met die toets van buffles en wat dalk julle probleme sal oplos. Daar's hy, Dr Gary, gaan dit goed?
Ja, baie goed, dankie self.
Ja, fantasties. Die reën het ons nou 'n bietjie gevang.
Wel, kan nooit kla oor die reën.
Kan nooit kla oor die reën nie.
Ja.
So, baie interessante projekte wat jy nou gelewer het, baie interessante inligting wat die boere nou gekry het hierso. Kom ons begin by snotsiekte.
Ja.
Dis altyd 'n bekleierery tussen die buurmanne met snotsiekte. En dit is vir my altyd interessant oor wie nou eintlik aanspreeklik is met snotsiekte. Wie is aanspreeklik? Wanneer gebeur wat?
Ja, dis 'n baie moeilike ding en daar's al gevalle in die hof gewees, jy weet, jare terug en nou gaan dit nog steeds aan in party plekke en goed, so ek gaan maar in Engels praat,
praat maar Engels, ja.
So there's always a question around snotsiekte or bovine malignant catarrh, and essentially, as far as the game farmers are concerned, wildebeest carry the virus, bovine malignant catarrhal virus, and under certain conditions that are favorable, they will shed that virus. And if cattle are infected, it's fatal. Generally, it's fatal to them. Currently, there's no vaccine. There was a company working on a vaccine development for snotsiekte, but it's not currently available. So there aren't any preventative vaccines that one can use. There are ways that you can mitigate or lessen the likelihood of the virus being transferred from the wildebeest herd to cattle. But generally, it's been shown that it can jump extensive distances. So if you've got a corridor of 100 meters, you can still get the virus
so it
jumping
can jump
across
like a fire jumps 100 meters.
Correct.
Okay,
yeah, it can be spread from a wildebeest herd across relatively long distances to a cattle herd.
So when that disease jumps that distance, who's responsible for the losses that occurs?
So it's a very interesting thing because you'll have farms where there are wildebeest and cattle on the farm at the same time, and they've never had a problem with snotsiekte, and then all of a sudden you'll get an outbreak happening. And as I said, it depends on those conditions that then make it favourable for them to be able to do it. It's very difficult to lay blame or lay a claim one way or the other, and generally I think what the courts look at is good neighbourliness. So that's the first thing is try and strike up a good relationship with your neighbour, whether you're the cattle farmer or whether you are the game farmer, and then the other things that they look at is probably like common sense things, like if you're a cattle farmer and you buy ground that is in a historically known game farming area and you move cattle in there and you get snotsiekte outbreak in your herd, you're probably not going to have much of a claim because you bought that property knowing the risks that were there. Likewise, if you are a game farmer and you move into a predominantly cattle farming area and you put wildebeest into there and there's a snotsiekte outbreak which hasn't ever happened in the last 20 or 30 years, you'll probably be held responsible.
So the historical use is very important.
Yeah, historical land use in the area is quite important, and then also just the way that you communicate with your neighbours and work alongside each other and try and do that, and I think that'll be good. Then the other important thing is when there is an outbreak of snotsiekte, remember that it can be spread. There are two different variants. It can be spread either by wildebeest or by sheep. So one needs to make sure that it's not the sheep-associated virus that causes it.
So when a claim comes in, and you can't just accept it as the truth, you have to get somebody in to confirm it was from my wildebeest that spread it and all of that type of stuff.
Sure. So if there's a suspected snotsiekte outbreak in your herd, if you're the cattle farmer, it's vitally important that you get a veterinarian in to do the necropsy or the post-mortem. And then more important than that, or in addition to that, it's important that that gets confirmed by laboratory testing. So, you can confuse the death an animal to snotsiekte with 1 or 2 other things, not very many, but it's vitally important that you've got laboratory backup that it was snotsiekte, and then they'll also then confirm whether it was the sheep or the wildebeest associated one.
So important for guys that get claims, confirm the death is as a result of snotsiekte, not
wildebeest.
something else.
Yeah.
And yeah, exactly, from wildebeest, not from sheep.
Correct, yeah.
Right,
yeah,
fantastic.
Yeah. Okay.
And then good neighbors.
Yeah.
And then another thing, let's talk about just quickly buffalo, sickness in buffalo.
Yeah.
We know there's a lot of diseases that's associated with buffalo. And there's a lot of testing that needs to happen when buffalo gets moved or gets worked or anything with buffalo. You gave me some hope now in your speech. Can you give them some hope as well?
Yeah, okay, but just a quick nutshell. Buffalo movement in South Africa is illegal unless there are a couple of criteria that have been met. Obviously, you need a nature conservation movement permit. Then you need a Red Cross permit from the Department of Agriculture, which basically confirms that those animals are free of the 4 diseases that we need to test buffalo for before we can apply for a movement permit. And that's corridor disease, foot and mouth disease, brucella or brucellosis, and tuberculosis. And the big thing is that the way that those are done currently is in the presence of the state, as a controlled disease, so in the presence of either a state veterinarian or technician. And there are a number of challenges associated with that now in Limpopo province. And the availability of those people to attend each and every buffalo testing and each and every loading and offloading is proving to be a challenge.
Yes.
There are fewer and fewer state vet posts that are being filled, and more farms that are being lumped together into a particular state vet area.
So less people has more work, and that's drowning them.
Correct, and it's not uncommon to have to wait 3, 4, 5 weeks before you can get an appointment to have those buffalo tested. So there's a company which has been established called the Buffalo Company, and they are pushing a drive at the moment through themselves and WRSA and the National Department of Agriculture to authorize private veterinarians to be able to do that testing on behalf of the state. And it's quite far down the line as far as being as far as getting to the end where those people will be authorized. And there are a couple of requirements that need to be met by those vets that are going to apply for authorization, and we're at that point now where those vets are going through providing training. Training is one thing, but we need obviously to certify and get a letter of good standing from the Veterinary Council to ensure that you are a vet in good standing with the registrar and with the registering authority. And then we need to get documentation signed by the state vets in those particular districts where those vets all work. And then you put all of that together, and the application then gets made to the National Department of Agriculture for that authorization.
So then private vets can be able to do the testing as well.
Correct. And just to outline what it'll entail. So a private vet, for example, won't be able to work on his client's farm. In other words, immobilize the buffalo, do the testing, do everything. There'll be a second vet who will then be the authorized vet acting on behalf of the state that will do the testing.
Authorized through the Buffalo Company.
Correct,
Yes, fantastic. And then that testing, the booking and all of that type of testing, the plan is to do that online. I'm not exactly sure how that's gonna happen, but what has been discussed in the preliminary meetings and in the planning and getting up to there, I don't know whether that's now been altered or tweaked a little bit, but the plan is that Farmer A, for example, wants to test 5 buffalo. He'll then make an appointment with his private vet that normally does his work to immobilize those buffalo, let's say on the 5th of June. And then he'll apply to the Buffalo Company and inform them that he's testing buffalo on the 5th of June, and the Buffalo Company will then second an authorized vet to do the testing, and that will either be done telephonically or online on the system. That's
correct.
The plan. Thank you very much. I think that will give some farmers a lot of hope.
Let's hope we can get there soon.
Thank you for your time, doctor.
Okay.
Dit was weer Farmspace hierso by WRSA Naboom se inligtingsdag. Ek dink hierdie stelsel wat hulle so van praat, dit is die WRSA portal wrsaportal.com, gaan maak vir jou profiel daarso. Ek weet, hy het vir my vertel, jy kan solank aansoek doen vir jou WI-nommer daarso, en dan al hierdie ding wat hy nou van praat, gaan deur dit hardloop ook. Daar's hy, dit was Farmspace, tot ziens.